All right, we're back, Nat.
We're back again.
This is the first time we're recording after an episode has gone live. So
Exactly.
this
We're
is
famous now.
It's true. We have like 40 something views. It's crazy.
Next episode, Donald Trump.
It's true. He's confirmed for the podcast. No, it's not. Also having our feedback. We were told we need like a little jingle, a little intro. They said it's awkward how we just start talking. So
yeah, well, who cares what the audience think? We made the podcast for ourselves. Just be honest.
That's true.
Okay.
I do care a little bit, but maybe that's in the works.
I care a little bit, but only so much because we have no direction of where this will ever go.
That's true.
So I start to care the moment when I'm like, this is serious business now.
Yeah.
But in some aspect, we could have a little jingle to it. Do you want to make a noise right now?
A noise?
Yeah.
What kind of noise? What
kind of
noise you
want? You thought about this more than I did, so you tell me.
I haven't thought about it. I've been told like 2 or 3 times now that we need like an intro song.
I think we'll have a jingle when the time is right. We do it too early. We're taking ourselves way too seriously for a podcast.
It's true.
That is really niche.
This is our 3rd episode, but if one of you who have listened and complained, by the way, wanna make us a jingle instead of just running your mouth. No, I'm just kidding.
We should have haters. We should feed off the hate.
That's true. Like every correct constructive criticism we get, we just treat them as if they're just like being rude, and we just shame them.
Nah, it's not that. It's just like, well, and that's the thing we should talk about first. It's like where we want this to go. Because for me, I believe the core of this and what makes this podcast enjoyable is one that you and I are both having fun. So if you and I are both enjoying it, that really is kind of what that matters at the end of the day. Because you and I, we share a lot of opinions, we share a lot of stories and a lot of experiences together. And that's kind of why we decided to do this.
That's true.
We didn't really make this with like a decision of like it will go from here to here. And,
that's true.
If that's possible, then glory be to God. But like that's always just been something that we just wanted to do for fun, and that should be like our main focus. And it's not to say that we don't care what other people have to say. Of course we do, and we want to talk about a variety of topics. But I think one thing that is not going to remain, like it's going to remain the same, is it has to be off the cuff. It's always going to be unplanned, unscripted, just straight from, our mouths. So.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think the other thing is like I want to be able to look back, and if no one else listens to these, I want us to be able to look back in like 5-10 years and listen to these and just see if how we've grown, how we've changed. But I do also like the fact that right now the only people listening to this is our friends, and I do like to be able to provide just a fun little thing for them. But
speaking of unscripted, I do want to thank our sponsor, Raid Shadow Legends.
Oh no, yeah, yes, this is completely unscripted, and it's just for our enjoyment.
The moment we start getting paid money, then we can be corrupt.
It's true. Yes, we will monetize this podcast as soon as they will let us.
10 ads for 20-minute podcasts. Yes, guaranteed. No, but yeah, I love the fact that we're having fun. I think that's kind of like, not to say that it sounds selfish, but it's like we kind of just made it because we wanted to have fun.
It's true.
And that's how it's going to remain for now. We may revisit it, maybe 50th episode edition. If we ever get that far, then we definitely can talk about the future of that. I do want to say, like, we definitely got a lot more viewers than I thought. We got, like, about 50 people who already listened to our podcast. We got over 400 impressions. So people have viewed our podcast.
Wait, 400 people viewed it? Is that...
impressions, so they must have, like, searched it up. They must have opened the link.
Huh.
Whatever it is.
That's interesting.
Or maybe they were trying to search up a different off-the-cuff podcast.
I don't think there's any other out there. There's no sense.
There is no other off-the-cuff podcast.
There's no need to search for another podcast out there with the same name.
It would be very inappropriate.
Yeah, don't. Please make sure you guys click on the right podcast.
And if there somehow was another podcast with the same name, Josh and I did not know about that podcast earlier on until it was too late. Until we decided on a name.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, we shouldn't have said that, but it's off the cuff, so there's no takesies backsies.
Yes, which is why we are going to release the other episode, Josh. See, I'm enjoying this now. We're hyping it up. Like, that's going to be so disappointing because I didn't even say anything inflammatory.
The unreleased files. We'll just keep hyping it up until...
You know what? We're just going to talk about what we talked about on a canned podcast. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but
We should maybe in this episode we'll put a poll and see how many people want the unreleased episode.
No, we don't care what the audience thinks. Remember, we care what we want.
Then why are you hyping it up?
'Cause I think it's funny. We don't have an audience yet. Well, we do, but we don't. You know what I mean?
It's true. We don't have retention.
Yes, that's true. But I would say demographically wise, like I said, if it's completely off the cuff, I don't see how at any point right now we need to appeal to a certain type of audience. It's just gonna be whoever cares just a little bit of enough to hear what we think, which is very small.
Yeah.
This time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I think we should keep labeling it with whatever topic we discuss, so that way if they're only interested in one, they can go and look at it, and if not, they can whatever, who cares.
And we see we're being very open about what we want off this show. And we like the feedback, we like what we're hearing, and there's definitely going to be a lot more thought put into it in the future.
Mm-hmm.
But the pace where we're going at now, don't put the cart before the horse,
That's true. Yeah. All right. Enough logistics, Nat. I kind of want to pivot, this is going to be an interesting segue.
Had something planned?
No, it's not planned. I was thinking about this.
Mm-hmm.
Well, depends on how long ago you consider planned, because I just sat down, and as you were coming, you said, Josh, come on, we got to film an episode today. And I was like, you're right. We should film an episode today. But to be honest, this whole last week I've been fighting off a cold. I'm a little bit sick. I don't know if you can hear it in my voice. And it's the middle of the semester, kind of a little bit past the halfway point. And I just kind of want to talk a little bit about apathy, because I feel like I'm at that place in the middle of the semester where it's like, I know why I'm here. I know why I'm doing what I'm doing. Like, I believe God's called me here for a reason. But just for whatever reason in the season, when I'm sick, when the homework's getting a little bit repetitive, it's the same assignments every week, just the next chapter. I don't know. I just want to talk to you about, as a fellow Christian, like what are some ways, what are some scriptures, some advice you've received, wisdom from other people, like when you feel apathetic, what are your go-to thoughts? What do you do to get back into the swing of things and enjoying living your life for Christ?
I don't know, because I'm trying to think of a time where I've been like, wow, I just don't feel nothing. I'm feeling numb. Like, when that happens, I would have had gone through something painful, like an event and just coming out of that, like there's that temporal feeling of numbness, but to feel apathetic, to not, I don't know, I just always like to keep myself preoccupied by things, and when I do, I'm not really thinking too much about my thoughts.
Okay.
And I know some people would say, well, I'm trying to get myself preoccupied, but I can't, because I'm constantly thinking about it. It's like, yeah, like, if I'm working out or, or playing some video game or whatever, like there are many thoughts that run through my mind at that moment, but I just been able to just push it off at the side for that moment, because I find myself, I'm preoccupied with my hands, I'm doing something. I would say, I just come from a background where it's not really easy to feel sorry for yourself. There's very little excuse to feel sorry for yourself. I'm not saying that that's what you're doing, but I find that if I am feeling apathetic, I feel like I'm just thinking about myself way too much and putting way too much importance to myself. Like, for example, let me tell you, on Friday, I was at an event called Reverb, which is like an overnight evangelistic event,
Mm-hmm.
Me and my group ministry outing, we're at the arena because there's a hockey game that begins at first. It'll be like it's not an NHL team, it'll be some minor hockey league. They're playing a game, and we're all having fun, we're in the moment, but then afterwards, the event's over. The organization that we work with basically rents out the arena. They give the gospel message to all the kids who paid the tickets to Reverb. They hear the gospel message, they play games, and we're just having fun. And it begins from 8 to 7 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah,
and
all
it's
night.
Overnight.
Yep.
And from the hockey arena, you're at this arena dome where there's a bunch of games going, like rock wall bowling, gaga ball, nine square, inflatables, and there's so many things going on. And
right.
I've been given a job to okay, you need to go and do this and this and this, and then be in a certain area for the games, and then After that, you need to go and take a break, and then just like you're trying to get your energy up. You chug whatever you can in that moment. Very unhealthy, but for the glory of God. But like there's times where you hit like at 3 a.m. in the morning and you're just so tired and you're like, oh, what am I doing?
Right.
I want this to end. And then it's like, and then like you see a kid who's just by himself doing nothing, and you're like, he doesn't look like he's having a good time. And then you just sit down and you talk to him, and then you hear what's going on with his life. And I always try to make sure they're a Christian, for one, that they understand what it means to be saved. But then I see what may be bothering them. Like a kid I was talking to struggles with feeling unforgiven. He knows that he's made in the image of God. He knows everything, but he doesn't feel that at that moment. And not to drag this on longer than we need to, but you walk through him the verses. You be a good brother in Christ, and you encourage him, and you let him know, like Christ died for your sins from the past, today, and in the future. He knows what you're going to do, but he's also provided a way for you to escape that. And you take your problems up to God first, and instead of looking inwardly to yourself, and you will get this amazing comfort. Because we're not meant to experience hardship alone. And I think with apathy, it's the same thing. Like, we're supposed to take that up to God, and we're supposed to just rely on Him. And it can be easier said than done, because we often don't find that it can be fulfilling because we cannot physically touch God or see Him in a way that I can see you right now. But you just gotta press on. You got to endure the faith, and I think that's what being a Christian is all about: is being willing to endure the hardship. Because I don't think look at what Paul wrote when he was in prison and he was being tortured and persecuted. Like, it's really not a sentence that comes out of his letters that says how he's just lost. Like, he's feeling numb. In fact, he expresses himself, the joy he has and what he's going through, and how he's learned that.
Yeah.
So apathy is not the best feeling, but it's certainly something that you take up with God, and what is He teaching you at the moment? Instead of asking, why am I feeling this, is what is God trying to show me at this moment? Yeah.
No, I think that's all really good, and I think you're right. I think apathy is, it is selfish, and I think it is sinful. For the most part, there's exceptions to that. But I think, like, something we talk a lot about in our biblical counseling course is, like, everyone is, like, a sinner and a sufferer, right? Which means you cause problems in your life, and then other people cause problems in your life. But I think everyone loves to lean into the fact that they're a sufferer more than they are a sinner, because they want to...
Exactly.
They want... Like, it's easier to be a victim than it is to realize that you're hurting yourself, because when you're honest with yourself and with God about the fact that you're hurting yourself, that means you've got a lot of hard work in front of you that you got to do. So that is good, and I think that, honestly, that's helpful. I do think, even just listening to you talk about that, I'm thinking about, just how much time I've been thinking about myself and the things that I want to do, and how I've kind of taken my eyes off of God in that way, and I think that does kind of lead to that apathy mindset.
Yeah, I mean, are you a victim of your apathy, or is you being a sinner is what breeding is? What
right,
breeding
like
apathy,
I'm choosing it right in that moment. I'm choosing to lean into those feelings of, like, not wanting to be productive or not wanting to do what God has called me to do.
But I think like having a transformation is first recognizing like what you're lacking, and I think if you find yourself lacking apathy, you're not as apathetic as you think you may be at that moment, because at least you can recognize that. I mean, we have a good God, and we know He's real, and that really is enough to stop any nihilistic thought that we can have.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, is I think that's the difference, right? Is leaning into who He truly is. And you talked about, like, sometimes we don't want that because we can't physically see Him, right, in the same way that we could seek comfort in another person, right? Or even in, like, a video game or something like that. At least that's something visual. That's something that's right in front of us. And so I think that's why people turn to those things, because there is a very immediate, tangible reaction to those things. But really, over the last couple of years, like, as I've started to pursue God, like, there's this element of your relationship with God that's just, like, it's more real than anything you've ever experienced, even though He's not here bodily, like, with us. There's something to it that's just so much more fulfilling, but it's not fully realized yet. Like, it's like I don't know, like C.S. Lewis talks about it a lot in the book we read, Surprised by Joy. Like it's like this longing for heaven, and just this intense like comfort that you get from God.
Yeah.
That you know that there's something on its way, like he's gonna make everything right.
When you deny yourself and you choose to live instead of everyone else, you choose to live for something greater than your own comfort. It's a whole different experience.
Yeah.
But we want to go on a lighter topic.
Lighter topic. Let's hear it.
It's still linked.
Okay. All right.
I don't listen to sad music when I'm sad. I think it's stupid.
You know.
Wait. Here's why.
Go ahead.
If I listen to sad music when I'm sad, I think I'll come up more sad. Okay. What is the sad music? What? Bad Day, Tears in Heaven, I Miss You, Blink-182. I don't know. Like all these songs. If I start listening,
Shout out Donnie.
Every Breath You Take. It's like listening to that is not really like. I've only listened to those songs when I'm not actually sad. I'm just listening to the artist expressing like sadness, but like I find like now when I'm in joy and I'm in a mood for something, like I listen to other types of music. But sad, like depressing music, I cannot listen to when I'm sad because I'm just gonna breed that selfish desire of looking to myself.
No, so I will say like, you actually might be surprised what I have to say about that because when me and you met, I think I was more like very big into the sad music stuff. But I think really over the past like 3 years, like as I've really pursued God and allowed like Him to comfort me instead of outside sources, I think I really have like grown a distaste for that sadder music. I still, in really bad moments, I find myself going back to it. But now that I've tasted like real peace and like the real comfort of God, like it's like I'm starting to see like how artificial it is and how self I don't know how wrapped up in self it is. It's just so
like
there's nothing there. It's really empty.
To it, I just go like, man, stop feeling sorry for yourself. Like it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
That's what I tell myself. Like, why am I doing this? Like I've done that like a couple of times in my past, but like honestly, my Spotify Wrapped is just pretty much just contemporary Christian and like some punk rock grunge stuff from time to time, but like I don't know, I'm not really big into the emotions, as you can tell, Josh. It's not empathy, sympathy. Yes, those are things that you must have, especially as a Christian. You must have compassion for others.
I will say though, I think you are a very emotional guy. I think you are. I just think that because you grew up in a different culture and because of your family, I think you don't lean into it a lot. But I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think, but I'm just saying. I think you get. Now. Well, I think you get accused of being emotionless a lot, but I don't think that's true. I think you just, in a lot of ways, are just different in the way that you process your emotions. I wouldn't necessarily say better or worse than anybody else, but it took me. I mean, I was your roommate, and we've been friends for 3 years now, so I can tell when stuff is bothering you. But I don't think you carry yourself in a way that it's super easy for people to just tell that you're upset, you know?
I actually agree with that. I respect that output. I wouldn't say I am an emotional guy, but I get what you mean by like, yes, I have emotions that I process different. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Is that a negative thing? I guess that's a question.
I don't know. I think there's pros and cons to it. Again, I don't think it's any different than anyone else. I would be careful with, I think, okay, so again, in biblical counseling, we talk about a lot of people and a lot of the way the devil like gets at you is he is trying to believe that you're different from everybody else, that no one else can understand you, you know?
True, but I hate that mindset.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I think
I don't think you've ever heard me be like,
no, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying like just because you process your emotions different than everybody else, I don't think that means that you're at a disadvantage or anything like that. Like, I just think you're in the minority as far as how you process the world around you.
Well, my personality
sounds like I'm calling you autistic. No,
I'll take it. That's the title, Nat Autistic ? Is that it? Is that
maybe. Have you taken a test, Nat? You might.
I mean, I have. I scored the lowest in our group.
True.
The lowest in our dorm. Remember?
It's true.
You score higher than me, like a lot higher than me. Also, what is it? Because my personality type is what, ENTJ. Apparently,
I don't know.
2% of the population.
You put well. I'm INFP, which is like.
Why am I not ENTJ?
No, I'm just saying like being like a rare. I think I think they tell you no matter what that you're like a rare percentage of the population
No,
with that
but
test. Because they told me mine's super rare too.
you don't think so?
I've met probably like 2 or 3 people that have the same one as
But
me.
that's okay. 2% is still like of the population. It's
Yeah.
like still a lot of people.
Why are we talking about this anyway? I used to love that test, but I think I think that test is dumb.
2% of this population would be like, it would be over 6 million. So, well, it's got to be up. Yeah, I'm just saying. Like, I don't know. That's still okay. Because I don't know. Because I was reading the post.
Okay, but like, do you subscribe to those tests? Like, do you think they're actually like?
No, but I think there is a way to quantitate like data of like how different our personalities are just based on our environment and our genetics. I think there has to be some way of measuring that. Obviously, you can say like, well, that's not in scripture, of course.
Yeah.
But I think no matter what, we got to find some way to quantitate. Like, okay, you don't think as the same way that other people do. Like, your logic doesn't flow the same way. In some ways, it's like, oh, you're more on the artistic side than on the logic thinking side. Like, there are people who just straight up like that. And
Well,
we
that's
just
the thing,
have to find
like,
a way to group them in a
yeah.
category.
Well, I think that goes back to what I was talking about earlier. How like society, like for whatever reason, people want to find their identity in being unique. Like no one else is like me, but I think
that's stupid.
yeah.
Like,
So I don't like those tests largely. Like whether it's like I'm not like trying to like deny science or whatever, but like
bio is stupid.
yeah, like I don't want to identify. Like okay, I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was a little kid, right? But that just meant that I had to work a lot harder. But it doesn't. I guess people like make that a part of their identity. They get a diagnosis and then they're just like, this is who I am, and I think largely it contributes to them feeling like they'll never succeed in life just because they were given some label. But I have friends that I love that are autistic. I have friends that I love that are, way worse than me, ADHD, dyslexia, like all those things, and they're in college, like they're doing very well for themselves. So I think.
And also ADHD is like one of the biggest misdiagnoses.
Well, now everybody, because your brain, like, the stuff that you choose to interact with over time creates, like, how your brain, like how your attention span, same, your brain is a muscle, same like anything else. So your attention span, if you're reading long-form content, your brain adjusts to being able to process long-form content. If you're processing short-form content, same thing. And that's why YouTube Shorts, Reels, TikTok, all this stuff is like super detrimental because no one can like focus to read a book anymore. And that's like,
yeah,
they weren't necessarily born with an attention deficit disorder, but they've developed one just based off of their lack of self-control.
That's what I mean. I think it's heavily inflated. Like, I think I don't know. I don't know. All I'm saying is, with all these, yeah, you're right to say, like, people who put their identity on, like, star signs and their personality tests. I think they're fun things to laugh at, but to take that seriously is questionable. But I do enjoy some of it sometimes.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely true if people who go to identify themselves in that way openly, probably not even a Christian, to be honest. Probably not.
It depends.
They're tremendously placing their identity in something that's not biblical anyway.
Or I think like if they are a Christian, then it goes back to James, like a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways, right? And again, going back to the biblical counseling class we've been taking, like when you're constantly filling your mind with scriptures and like God's view of who you are, but then also the world's view of who you are, like you have these two philosophies in your head that are combating one another, and it just stresses you out because you don't know who you are, and you have to fully commit to one or the other. And if the world says something about you that contradicts scripture, then you throw it out.
And in Philippians 1 it talks about us being of one mind, one body in Christ.
Mm-hmm.
So you got your sermon out the way, Josh?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, I'm gonna put a timestamp if like Josh preaching, just
yeah.
Skip this part. No, I think
it's the Southern Baptist upbringing is what it is, Nat. I know how to preach well into the lunch hours.
Let's talk about that actually, because you grew up Southern Baptist. I grew up non-denominational. How I gotta ask you, like, what's that like growing up Baptist?
Growing up Baptist, Well, I don't know. It's hard because like a lot of the stereotypes are true, but then a lot of them aren't at the same time. It's very nuanced. Um, yeah, I went to two Southern Baptist churches. There was the one that my parents both got saved in, which was like close to our house. Um, and we went there. I think we went there till I was like 5 or 6 years old, and then that church actually like split and like fell apart. The pastor, it was not a good situation. We'll just leave it at that. And then searched for, I feel like the better part of a year. I remember going to different churches every Sunday, searching for a church. Which that's one thing I do really, when I look back on my childhood, I really respect about my parents is, they were new believers, they were new Christians, but they really took their time with, this community, like being a part of the body of Christ. Like, we want to know what they're teaching because these people are going to have an impact on the like who our children become. And so they wanted to make sure that the church that we grew up at like was actually preaching the word of God and not just claiming to. And so I think we mostly went to Baptist churches just because like that was what was around in the area I grew up in. But like they went to some other ones, and we happened to the one that was in our area that lined up with scripture happened to be a Southern Baptist church. And it was good. I was there all until I came to college. I think, I don't know, I was there for like over 15 years. Had a really close relationship with my pastor. It was a smaller church. Most of my life we still met in the building that was built in the 1800s, which is kind of cool. There's some cool history there.
Mm-hmm.
And then right a couple years before I left, we finally moved into a bigger building. We're able to do one service instead of two because we had a large enough auditorium, which is cool. And I remember we took a class called Local Church Ministry, and I remember him talking about the statistics, and like based off of pretty much all metrics, like my church shouldn't exist, and it definitely shouldn't be thriving and sending missionaries and like all that stuff. Which is really, really interesting. Most Southern Baptist churches that were like founded in the 1800s are like very backwards thinking, and there is some of that in my church. There's been a lot of growing pains, but by and large, like they have a commitment to the gospel, and that's really what's kept the church alive is the older generation. They may not understand our culture or the things that draw our people our age to the church, but they're like, for the most part, they're like, if that's what we got to do to reach them, that's what we're gonna do because Christ is more important. And there's a few that don't want to see that happen, but by and large,
Christ is more important than the suit and tie.
yeah, Christ is more important than the suit and tie.
Well, no, because my background was like, grew up in more of a charismatic, like non-denominational, like like it was a non-denominational church, but Hillsong music. We're talking about like Pentecost, something that you kind of see in school that we went to. Like it was like very contemporary Christian music. The only doctrinally different in the sense of like speaking in tongues was okay. Female preachers is okay.
Whoa,
I didn't think any different about it growing up, and now people wonder why isn't that so radicalized and traditional. Now you know why his background. Yeah. No, but I mean, I grew up in that, and that seemed like the normal,
Yeah.
And because when I grew up in Australia, like Hillsong is like that's where it came from.
Oh really? I didn't know that.
A lot of the biggest like contemporary Christian bands came from Australia, actually. Which is so funny because it's such a secular country.
Yeah.
But anyway, my church was about 100 and something people. It was not a mega church by any means. But I had this phase when when I was kind of like not in my parents' home. When I was in the military, though, I was kind of like online.
Singapore military. You have to.
Well, you have to. I reveal information when I want to, Josh. I don't let other people tell me my personal life.
I was just saying because you say the military, and people are just from the American mindset. They're gonna be like, how was Nat in the Marines? What?
Well, I already said Australia, so if anything, if they were listening,
They would think the Australian military.
Yeah, the most they'll conclude is that. And also, I
Well,
don't really care what other people think.
That's true. Well, you're just a mystery, Nat. You've had such an interesting life.
I do when I want to, Josh. As I was saying, anyway, that no, like I had a phase actually where you know, with that there was a phase. I'm not gonna go too much in this because I want to save this for another time. You know, some stuff you have to reveal in increments. You know, you can't just.
I already know all this about you, Nat.
I know, but I want to make sure you understand that because I don't want you to be like, oh, but you didn't mention this, Nat. And it's like, well, because now's not the time. But
you're not speaking to the audience at all. We're just having a conversation.
Well, this is for me. Anyway.
I know.
Yeah. But no, there was a phase where I did look into Roman Catholicism for a bit. Like, I went to go study it, and, you know, I knew people who were in the Catholic Church, but ultimately I ended up rejecting it because I knew that was not what God had. Like, God, like, reached into my heart and, you know, because I always said, God, like, if I'm wrong, show me I'm wrong. If I'm right, show me that I'm right. But it was also a phase. I don't think I told you about this, Josh. Maybe you may have picked it up when you first met me, but I was looking into the whole fundamental Baptist movement.
Really?
Yeah, like King James only and all that.
No.
Like I never got seriously in it. But like I was kind of curious because like I did not know because like growing up in Australia, never heard of like people who were KJV only. Never heard of Baptists. So you gotta understand that like me, like 6 years ago, still coming about his views was just like
that makes
very
sense.
curious about that. The first time I went to a Baptist church, though, was, like, I guess in Florida, I guess. So, like, I've seen churches where they do read out the KJV and they sing hymns and their dressing is very traditional and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And the message, from what I hear, is biblical. What they believe on salvation is biblical. It's just the aesthetics is different. Of course, they're not charismatic by any means.
Right.
You know, I visited churches that were part of the SBC. You know, just when I went on my mission trip recently around New England, there were churches that like, it was a scandal to have a TV screen. No drums, nothing. Like, that is a lot for them.
Yeah.
And it's just like, those churches you can tell are the people that are on average about 200 years old. And
right.
They don't really like to work with they're not as ecumenical. And that's kind of like the personality differences. I noticed that Baptists are very distinct in that. Like they like the idea of rebelling against the church and starting their own when they find that it's gone off the doctrine.
Yeah.
Sometimes even for the smallest things. I think sometimes it's good, sometimes I don't know. I question it. But the church that I grew up in was more ecumenical, working with different people who were different, like the Catholic Church or Methodist or whatever, you know. And not to say, you know, it's just something that I want to say is interesting. This is not a podcast where we're going to tell you which is the right church to go to. But it's just to like, talk about, you know, our differences. And yeah, you know, well, we're still both Christian. We still get along. Like, if I were to pick a church to settle down in, I probably would, I would say safe bet, I'll probably settle in the Baptist church just because I find their websites are pretty easy to read in what they believe, doctrinally speaking. Definitely not the United Methodist Church. You know,
yeah.
by any means.
Well, and that's the thing is like, you could decide today that you think that one denomination is the most solid, and in 10 years that could change. Like
exactly.
I remember about it. I think it's maybe about a year ago now. I like called my pastor from college and was talking to him because the Southern Baptist Conservative Convention voted.
They're going liberal, yeah.
Yeah, they voted against an amendment to their, I guess, statement of faith or whatever that would further it would further clarify that pastors can only be men, right? The way that it was written when the organization was founded was very loose because they didn't think that would ever be an issue, and so now they want to clarify those terms, and the majority voted against that. The majority voted to leave it open to allowing women as pastoral roles. And so I was talking to my pastor about that, and he was like, you know, for now, like, our church is going to stay part of the SBC. Like, just because they voted that doesn't mean they're going to, like, it doesn't mean that they basically have taken a non-stance is kind of the thing.
Yeah.
But he did say in the future, 5-10 years, like, that may look like my church becoming an independent church.
See,
You
that's
know?
the thing. I like the idea of, and maybe this is my non-denominational background, not being tied to something like that. So like Baptist influence, because I've been in an international church before, and the elders and the pastors have come from Baptist backgrounds. It was almost like some non-denominational church actually have Baptist origins, but like, I personally would not be joining a church that is part of the SBC. I am very skeptical of these like large Christian organizations. And,
Yeah.
and that ties into a bigger thing. And like I am so skeptical of these large Christian organizations. I can see why people end up leaving the church sometimes, because if the church comes out and saying we were wrong about this, we're going to change it. You start to doubt, like, what else have you guys been wrong at for the last 300 years, or when you guys began? And that's what it spirals down into something like that.
Yeah.
But even then, we also must not be. You shouldn't be loyal to your fault, but we also should not be so petty about certain things, because no church is going to be perfect.
Right.
And Christ's bride is a harlot, really.
Yeah.
And no matter what, it's not an excuse not to go to church. Like, you still need to go to church, and you still need to take part in the church. Your pastor may not be right on everything, but if the doctrines remain the same and it's not a heretical church, like, you can still need to take part in the community, and who knows what might happen, Yeah. Maybe things can change. But like, certainly he's not giving up and walking away from the church and not going away, because Christ still commands us to come and worship together,
Yeah, and I think also we should look at it as a privilege that, like, we live in a place where we can even pick and choose between denominations. I remember, like, when I went on my missions trip to Australia, I was on the opposite side of the country from where you grew up.
Yeah, so you've seen our churches.
Yeah, but so we went to the branch of Word of Life there. They all of them attend an Anglican church, not because the Anglican Church aligns with every doctrinal statement of Word of Life, but because it's the only church around. It's either that or Catholic. Yeah. And so they were just kind of encouraging us, like, maybe that's a lesson when you go back to America, to, like, not get so caught up in, like, oh, if we don't agree on every little thing, then we can't go out and share the gospel together or partner together with a different church, like, because some countries don't have church at all, or if they do, they have like one or two denominations. So it's like, it's not that theology doesn't matter. It does. It's super important. But there's things that are things that are more important. There's things that are less important. And as the world gets increasingly more secular, if we're divided against ourselves, like, we can't afford to do that.
Yeah, Anglican is, well, Episcopalian is what they call it here, because no American will call himself an Anglican. There's a whole history behind that.
Yeah.
But that's basically what Anglican and Episcopalian is synonymous to the American audience. But yeah, no, it's. We really got deep in this episode, I got to say. Last episode,
true.
We were just like, yeah, Trump won. And now we get, see, this is what I love about this podcast, because it's like,
you never know where it's going to go.
Different direction. I literally just said, like, 15 minutes ago, I was like, okay, Josh, still light a topic. And I'm like,
now we're back.
Now I realized, like, what am I talking about? I just talked about Josh to talk about his childhood church experience. Of course he's going to go off about
That's
this
true.
for a while. I was like,
yeah, so I think part of that is, like, when we say, like, off the cuff, I think the main thing is, like, I can't tell you ahead of time what I'm thinking, because, like, and you've done it too, like, where you've come to the podcast and you've had ideas of stuff you want to talk about, but I think it's just, like, me and you haven't discussed it until we get here. I think is kind of, I don't know, you can tell me I'm wrong.
Sometimes I'm like, yes, we should talk about this on the podcast, and I'm like, I just forget about it in a moment, and it's like,
yeah,
I like what we said better,
Yeah.
I like it to be natural,
Unscripted.
It's not like Jimmy Kimmel where they say it's live and it's not actually live.
That's true. Yeah. I wonder how many takes it took to get
are
Jimmy
not
Kimmel
live.
to actually cry over Trump winning the election.
I mean, we're not actually live.
He's crying so much that he has millions of dollars. Anyway.
Sure. All these celebrities leaving the country, like, yeah, you're not going to at all.
Yeah.
This is not happening.
Imagine if, like, all the people shaving their heads right now saying that they don't have any rights anymore. Imagine if they were like, okay, and then they just put them on a plane and send them over to the Middle East.
Yeah. It's so amazing how some people are so, like, I'm shocked that Trump won, in the sense that, not to say that I didn't believe he was the right candidate, or I'm not shocked that I'm not shocked that people supported him. I just didn't know how legit the election was going to be. But
Yeah.
I am not shocked that the average American identifies with Trump a whole lot more than what the Democratic base is trying to advocate for.
Yeah.
And people are still scratching their heads over this. Just shows you how little they understand what's going on across the country.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and I think also, like...
Well, we know it because they're rich and they haven't had to go through the same experience. Like, the price of eggs doubling does not really affect them.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing is the media wants us to feel like we're alone. But really, it's them that's alone. Like, they might get some marginalized people to agree with them. But for the most part, we've seen overwhelmingly the country wants to go back to the way things were.
Yeah, and you can be still a citizen. You can still say, like, I'm as a citizen, I'm going to support this candidate. I think that's still okay, but you have to understand that, like, if your conclusion is that prideful to be, like, I am so right, everyone now just apparently hates democracy, everyone right now is apparently fascist, everyone... It's like that. It's like that you clearly just don't understand. You don't know what you're talking about at that point. And the humbling thing to do is not to double down on your views, but actually start to question yourself. Like, what am I thinking? Because clearly it's not popular. Clearly what I advocate for is not what the direction the country's going. As much as how right I think it is, I should at least be trying to ask why. Why is it not gaining momentum?
You know, something I think we need to get back to as a country. My dad raised me. I remember when Obama got in office. Like, I remember sitting in our kitchen. Like, I remember exactly where I was, and we had this little gray, like, box TV that was in our kitchen.
The good old days.
Yeah, and I remember, like, my dad was upset, and I was like, you know, do you not like who's in office or whatever? I forget, you know, as a little kid who doesn't understand politics. And I remember my dad basically said, he's like, listen, son, like, even if you don't respect the man, you should always have respect for the office. And I think really that's a biblical thing of submit to the powers that be. And, you know, I talked a little bit, I think in the last podcast, about how I'm reading through 1 Samuel and just how David refused to lay his hands on Saul and to hurt Saul because he recognized that he was God's anointed. And I think, you know, I struggled to have that mindset when Joe Biden was in office. But I think even if you don't respect the man or you don't respect his policies, I think part of, you know, everyone's talking about trying to lower the temperature, the political temperature of the country. I think the way that you do that is no matter what, respect the country, respect the office of president. And if you don't like the way that he's running the country, then pray for him. Mm-hmm. We gotta get back to that, because that if the average American could just understand that, it would unify us so much.
Yeah, I celebrated like an American yesterday though.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Because of the event I went to, they gave us a $10 gift card. And I cashed it out yesterday. Yesterday, you can get 10 nuggets for $1.
Yes.
So you know I did that.
Yes.
And then I had the $5 deal where you get like a drink, fries, and like 4 nuggets. I got that.
Let's go.
Then I got a 2 for $3.99. So I got a so for the $5 one, I think I also picked the I think I had a McChicken.
Mm-hmm.
And then a 2 for $3.99 was a McDouble and a hot and spicy chicken. So I ate all of that.
Nice.
And didn't throw up. And
Let's go.
I said to Trump, and I ate at McDonald's, and it's like, you know, I'm just saying, I that's a moment in history for me.
Okay.
In November, like how, like you saw the photo, right? You saw I ate all of that.
I did. I saw a video of you stuffing your face with fries.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No.
Doing the math
that leads me to something I've thought about. I don't think we've ever talked about it though. I want to know, because I know you plan on staying in the States. I want to know, like, do you plan to get your citizenship? Like, have you started that process? Like, what does that look like? Because I know
Josh wants me to just expose my personal details on.
What? Yeah. What? I mean,
I don't know.
Are we not? What are we?
I don't know.
I mean, they know you're from Australia, so I think they can deduce you're on a student visa right now.
Yeah, and I'm still a student in college, and I guess the plan is to meet Trump. And then I'm done. I'm settled. Everything's settled.
Once you meet Trump, then you just
he gets sworn into office. I get sworn as a citizen. No, but I don't know. Like, it's probably gonna be like. No, honestly, I can't really tell you. can't. I don't.
You don't know. You don't know.
Who
You haven't
knows?
thought about it?
I have thought about it, but the thing is, the time is not right to reveal the details.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's
I
just
think-
not right.
I think that you would like, out of anybody, you would ace that because everyone talks about like the hardest part is like,
it's so easy.
but you know your history better than most
No,
Americans.
No, it's so easy. No. Listen, they ask. I saw a video like when I was in high school, like how to do the test, and it was like, oh my gosh, he's like, who was the president during the Civil War? Lincoln, of course. Who was the first president? George Washington. Just like that's how easy the questions are. They should make it harder. They should be like, so what is the motto for New Hampshire? It's gotta be Latin or something. It's gonna like I don't know.
Do you know Virginia's, Nat?
The English translation, well, it's probably like six something. But
Six-
it's something like, no, I can't quote it exactly, but it's basically something like death to tyrants, but it's not exactly.
There you go. You're
But
close.
it's not the exact translation.
Yeah, it's Sic Semper Tyrannis, death always to tyrants.
Something like that.
And then it's the flag
we can
is.
fact check you right now. If you're
Go
wrong
ahead.
about
Go
that.
ahead. No, it's our flag is it's either there's a lady and she's meant to represent either liberty or justice. I can't remember which one, and she's standing with like a javelin through the chest of a tyrant that she's killed. Yeah, it's amazing.
Thus always to tyrants.
Thus always to tyrants. Well, thus is death. So
Is that actually?
no, thus is in like because the flag shows her killing a tyrant, and then it says thus always to tyrants.
I love that.
It's beautiful, but then you get these people that are. This is actually a big controversy in Virginia because our tourism motto, like our Virginia State Park motto and all that, is Virginia's for lovers.
Yeah.
And so you have
in
like
this day and age,
yeah,
it doesn't really work.
so you have death always to tyrants, and then you have Virginia's for lovers, and it's just like
We should play a quick hot seat game. You should just like list off some states, and I'll tell you the first thing that comes to my mind.
first thing that okay, all right, Ohio.
I would have said swing state, but this past election, I know it's so basic to just be like, oh, because what this means, but
Just
like,
be like,
honestly,
oh, it's not
I
real.
I really love the state of Ohio, so
You been there?
yeah.
I didn't know that.
I'm still gonna go with swing state. I can't think of
Okay.
anything else.
Hmm.
But,
I went to Ohio. I went to Dayton, Ohio. I did not enjoy my time there. Just saying. We went to we looked at the crime map, and it was like in the country, like one of the highest crime rate. Yeah, and it's not even a city.
continue on. Come on.
Anyway, sorry. Massachusetts.
Overeducated snobs.
Texas.
I mean, I would think of Cowboys and Indians. I do think of a lot about, like, I think of Red Dead Redemption.
Oh
A lot
my
about
gosh.
that, but like no, I definitely Cowboys.
I would say that that's not true, but yep.
I don't think Red Dead Redemption was set in Texas. I don't think.
I don't know where it
Actually,
was.
Maybe it was.
It's
Anyway.
probably somewhere in the desert.
Parts
in
of
those-
it.
I don't know.
To be. Anyway,
New Mexico.
aliens.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say Breaking Bad. Honestly.
Yes, but I think it's kind of cheap to define a state by a TV show. I would not feel proud.
Well, I
to watch
defined
this-
Pennsylvania based off of
No, then
The
again,
Office.
if you said
Scranton.
Colorado, I would have said South Park. So never mind.
Dang. These are not endorsements of any of those shows.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Anyway, California.
Gay.
Yeah. Washington.
I thought you were gonna say swastika.
No.
Washington. I think of the city Seattle. I think of the Space Needle.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Okay, I think of Amazon really.
Amazon.
Isn't that where the headquarters is?
In Washington?
It's in Seattle, right? But they moved it.
I don't know. I can't remember. I remember they tried to move. I remember there was a big bidding war, like when I was in high school, over like which state was gonna get all the new jobs from their big new facility.
I think of the mountains too, definitely.
What are other states? Louisiana.
Cajuns.
French
people.
Nebraska.
I think of flat land,
Yeah.
farmer planting seeds.
Have you ever heard the country song "Flyover States"?
I'm sure it's just listing all the flyover states.
No, it's not listing them. It's like, it's a good song. It's pretty wholesome. It's talking about like business guys flying from New York to LA, and they're on the plane like laughing at the people down there. Like, why would you want to live down there? And the guy's like, well, I'll tell you why you would want to live down there. And he talks about just like, you know, what it's like to work hard and the fabric of a small town.
Yeah, I
and,
think of like John Deere.
yeah,
Tractor.
John Deere tractors. Massey Ferguson. I think they're out of business, but my dad had an old Massey Ferguson. What are other states?
Wow, Josh, don't think too hard.
Did I say?
45
Well, I
other
can't remember
states.
which ones I've already said. Did I say Colorado?
I said Colorado.
You said Colorado. Have we said New Jersey?
New Jersey, The Sopranos.
Minnesota.
Canadians.
Canadians? Okay. South Carolina.
Myrtle Beach.
Is Myrtle Beach in South Carolina?
No way. I don't know at this point. Isn't it? Because isn't that that's why people say that's the only good thing about South Carolina compared to North Carolina is Myrtle Beach, right? It has to be in South Carolina.
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it is.
Okay.
Let's just say it is.
I know I've vacationed there a lot, but I can't remember which one
a
it's
poor
in.
man's North Carolina.
I'm not gonna lie. As a Virginian, my favorite thing is to just be like, whenever I meet someone from one of the Carolinas, I'm like, oh, it's the same, and they're like, no, it's not. They're different. Mine is better. And it's like, oh yeah.
South Carolina is definitely more conservative.
Well, yeah,
than
because
New
the
Jersey.
further you go down, then yeah.
Yeah.
But they both went red still in the
Yeah.
Unlike my state,
Yeah, because you didn't vote, Josh. We already been through that.
we have been through that.
You're gonna have to.
I blame
you're gonna have to
Alexandria.
beg Trump
You know-
for forgiveness.
I just learned this the other day, actually. Alexandria, which is the biggest, like one of the biggest blue voting areas of Virginia that basically turns the entire state blue every time, actually used to be a part of the District of Columbia. It used to be part of D.C., and then it's divided by a body of water. I forget what it is. And so apparently there was like some tax differences or whatever, and so they wanted to break off from D.C. and become a part of Virginia. But if they had never done that, then Virginia would always go red.
It's true, actually.
So I think there was a little bit more at play there when they did that. I'm not gonna lie. I would have to research more of the history of when it happened, but I think they knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, okay, more states. I can't think of anything.
Oh, Josh.
I don't remember what I've said already is the problem.
Oh, Joshy poo.
All right, you tell me a state I haven't named yet, and I'll tell you what I think of them.
You haven't said Idaho. You haven't
Potatoes.
said Montana. You haven't said Wyoming. You haven't said Missouri. You haven't said Alabama. You haven't said Georgia. You haven't said Florida.
I said
You haven't
Georgia.
No, you haven't.
Oh,
You haven't said Arizona. You haven't said Arkansas. You haven't said North Carolina. You haven't.
do you have opinions of all of these
You haven't
states?
said West Virginia. You haven't said Pennsylvania. You haven't said Delaware. You haven't
Okay,
said
all right.
You haven't said New York.
I said Minnesota.
I didn't say Minnesota. I said,
You-
you said Delaware, New York, Connecticut.
Do you but do you
Rhode
genuinely
Island,
have opinions of
Maine.
all those states?
Josh, you know me. I have opinions on everything.
Do you really? I don't care about a lot of those
Vermont,
states, to be honest,
New
because
Hampshire,
I don't plan on going
Alaska,
there.
Hawaii,
Hawaii.
North and South Dakota, Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, Tennessee, Kentucky.
Okay. Sorry, this
Just
is
flexing.
you said Hawaii. Now I'm thinking, what do you think of Tulsi Gabbard?
She's alright. She's not a Christian though. Oh, she's a Hindu.
Is she Hindu?
Yeah.
I didn't know. Well, that makes sense. They have a lot of interesting beliefs in Hawaii. A lot of like the tribal stuff.
I think she's good where she's at. I mean,
But what do you think of her like as a politician?
I said if every Democrat was like her, then this country would have better unity in some aspect.
Yeah.
But
I was after the election, like I had no idea who she was before she supported Trump, so I started looking at her.
like
And
her and
she's
RFK
interesting.
should just be like what the Democrat base should be like.
Her and RFK, yeah. 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 No, I kind of wonder, like, if the Liberal Party was still, like, what it used to be, I kind of wonder if I would be where, like, I think I would be more towards the middle. Like, I think there's certain views that I hold that people could accuse me of being, like, a classic liberal, but not, like, a modern-day liberal. Like
I know
marijuana.
that- I know
like,
that
I
I
believe
would've been.
marijuana should be legal.
Yeah, it's really cringe, Josh. We have to talk about that.
My thing is like, okay, I believe marijuana should be legal. I believe that the drinking age should be 18.
Really?
I do, because again, this is a tired argument. Everyone knows this argument, but if you can
fight in
join the
the war,
military,
then
then you can drink alcohol. But also, I was thinking of this. I wonder if part of the reason like they push for, because I was looking at
I'm kind of prohibition. I think that actually worked.
you like prohibition?
What it set out to do was actually very well accomplished. Like the drinking, like a lot of crime went down actually because of that. Now,
Did it go down, or did it just go down behind closed doors?
Obviously, people like Al Capone became popular because of he smuggled alcohol, but like it kind of
Yeah, it contributed to organized crime.
But it didn't. But the point is, what they set out to do, it did work. That's the thing. At the end of the day, that's a whole nother story. That's too much to get into that. No, I mean, marijuana's a gateway drug, Josh. I would say.
I don't know if it is though.
I'll say this.
I need to look at the research more.
I know that I will still be a conservative no matter what, because liberal doctrine is one thing you need to take away from liberals. Is there are good, well-meaning people who are liberals, but the core of the doctrine, what they believe, what makes you a liberal, is you have to believe that everyone is equally the same. And the reason why some people are successful and why some people aren't successful is because of some form of discrimination that stopped them too. And that, not to say it doesn't happen in history, not to say that doesn't happen nowadays, but that's why they believe in stuff like affirmative action and DEI.
Yeah,
because I think God made people very different. I think He made different people groups different.
Yeah, I didn't say I would be a liberal.
God.
I said that people probably could accuse me of it based off of certain beliefs that I hold.
Yeah, but they will say like they attribute everyone, they quantify everyone into just being an individual, and that's not how human civilization really is.
Right.
You know.
Did we talk about that on the podcast? My thing on like individualism, like we don't use like Mr. or Mrs. or Miss anymore, like which told you your place in society versus being an individual.
If we did, like maybe we did.
That's a whole thing for another.
But individualism has become way too rapid, like to the expense of caring for your community.
Yeah.
That's what's been going on. That's a problem. That's
Can you but like does. Imagine like.
But that's what liberalism creates at the end of the day.
Yeah.
That's why it doesn't work.
But like if we still addressed single girls as Miss whatever, right? And use their last name, then you're being reminded every time you talk to her that she's someone's daughter, right? And she's under his authority and under his protection. Might change the way that you behave regarding her. Just saying.
Maybe. But liberalism is why people are against the idea of like open borders. Are for the idea of open borders because everyone's the same, right? It's like no, like God in Scripture, Israel was defined as His own kingdom, and the borders were very well defined. Like this is us, this is you, kind of thing, and that
makes sense.
Because it's a recognition that you are different from me. You have a different way of life and all that. Not to say that people cannot come in, like
right in the same way.
People became Jewish or Israelites. Like,
right, but by and large, like you had to participate in, and you had to. Yeah, you had to hold to the same beliefs.
The big problem with liberalism, actually, the number one problem, of course, is the idea that people are naturally good, which is not true at all.
There it is.
And by
honestly,
you believing that
is.
people are naturally good and that everyone's an individual,
mm-hmm.
That's what it comes down to.
Well, that's why I think.
And that's why it's not off the Bible. It's not.
Yeah, that's why I think. I don't know if we've talked about this, but that's why I think capitalism is largely successful, is because capitalism, I believe, assumes that all people are bad, and so like it makes it to where if
everyone wants to get their own buck.
If you're a selfish person, what capitalism does is it makes it to where it's easier for you to become successful by playing the game by the rules than it is to become successful by playing against the rules.
In fact, it's in human nature. Like, my boss wants to make money. He wants to increase production so that he can pocket his own money in some way. I work for him, so I can get money, so I can buy whatever goods that I want. I personally desire.
It's a very, which not that it's wrong to want to make money, but there are some people that's their soul, like that's their idol. And I think capitalism rightly assumes that most people are going to be coming at it from a selfish perspective. Like,
Yeah. But I think we're good where we are at.
it's true. We're coming up on an hour on this thing.
Yeah, we talked about a lot of different things. Yeah, so I don't know, what do we title this?
What do we title this episode?
Nat give his opinion on different states. Josh and Nat talk about different Christian upbringing. That's also an extent.
I mean, we talked a little bit about apathy at the beginning. We've covered a wide swath of information, Nat.
Yeah. No.
All right, how about this? I'll pick one word, and you pick another word, and it'll be that word and the other word.
What do you mean?
So, like, okay, the first episode was goldfish and birth control, right? So, like, in that
How about
sense...
we just do, like, the clickbait title, like, all caps, Josh, apathetic, Nat...
Josh, mental health crisis, is off the cuff in trouble.
Yeah, and it'll be, like, Nat, shoot, I was actually had it in my mind what I was going to say. I don't know. I forgot what it was. Maybe it's me. Maybe it's about me being super charismatic. I don't know. No.
Does Nat speak in tongues? That's our podcast title.
No. But anyway, thank you all for listening. I doubt most of you
Made it this far.
made it
Yeah.
this far. I can look at the retention rates on the analytics.
Hmm.
But anyway, thank you all for listening. Peace out. God bless.